Cunliffe.
Speaker, to the Minister of Finance, by what percentage did GDP per capita fall between the June 2008 year and the June 2011 year?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, if the member will bear with me on just a bit of detail, I've interpreted this question to mean real production-based measure of GDP, which is the one most commonly quoted. On this basis, the 2011 year was 3.6% below that of 2008. But the story does have some nuances. Per capita GDP actually peaked back in 2007 and then started sliding before the global recession, because under the previous government, New Zealand went into recession well ahead of the rest of the world. The big decline in per capita GDP happened in the year to June 2009, when real per capita GDP fell by 3.3%. That is before the current government had delivered its first budget. Since our first budget in 2009, the growth has stabilised. It's pleasing to see the economy has expanded in 8 of the past 9 quarters, and GDP has grown by 3.5% over the past 2 years.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, I seek
As a
leave...
point of order, I beg your pardon. Point of order, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
I speak leave to table this representation of Statistics New Zealand figures which show that GDP has decreased 3.6% under the current government.
The source
Statistics New Zealand, sir.
It's a photocopy of something.
It's a graph, sir.
I'm trying to sort out who has compiled this document.
It's Statistics New Zealand's data, sir, represented in a graph.
I asked who's compiled the document, not the source of the data.
The research unit, sir, has used Microsoft Excel to put it in a form that
Leave is sought to table that document from the party research unit. Is there any objection? There is objection. Order. Supplementary question, Honourable David Cunliffe.
One for the Minister. How much money has the government borrowed over the last 3 years?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I couldn't give you the total figure off the top of my head, but it would be certainly well in excess of $20 billion, and that has been driven by 2 things. One is the recession, which began under that member's party, and was then compounded by the need to borrow for the Christchurch earthquake. Of course, the important thing is to have a plan for the path back to surplus, which we have in place.
The Honourable David. Point of order, the Honourable David.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table the Statistics New Zealand numbers which show that the actual amount of debt that the government's racked up is twice what... Order. Members will be silent.
When I get to my feet, the member will resume his seat and other members will be silent. Now, I've developed a procedure that members identify the source of a document before citing the information in it, so we can quickly determine whether or not that leave should be sought to table the document. Seeking leave is not an opportunity to convey information while the member is on the member's feet. It is to seek leave whether or not a document should be tabled. First, the House needs to know the source of the document. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The source of the estimate of $37 billion is Statistics New Zealand.
Order. The member will resume his seat and he may ask a supplementary question if he wishes to. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
How many fewer jobs are there in New Zealand than when his government came to office, according to the latest National Employment Indicator?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, according to the standard for measuring jobs, which is a household labour force survey, there are more jobs now. And one reason is because we've been able to stabilise the drop in per capita GDP. If I can point out to the member, per capita GDP fell during Labour's final term.
Order. Now, I've just dealt fairly severely with the Honourable David Cunliffe, and while the Minister may not have liked the question and may have criticism about the statistics upon which the question is based, the answer should at least start from where the question asked, not ignore it totally. And the question did ask about employment figures as indicated by an employment indicator survey. Now, the Minister is perfectly at liberty to indicate his concerns about that data, but to ignore it totally is not on. The Honourable Bill English to answer the question asked. Well, I'm happy to have the Honourable David Cunliffe repeat it if it's been forgotten.
Mr. Speaker, I answered the question and I'll repeat it in case you didn't hear it. According to the standard for measuring the total number of...
Order. Members may wish questions were different from what they are, but I'll invite the Honourable David Cunliffe to repeat his question, because the Minister may certainly have views of the particular statistics, but the answer should at least start from the point of the question being asked, not ignore it totally, and cite other data without any reference whatsoever to the question asked. The Honourable David Cunliffe to repeat his question.
Mr. Speaker, to repeat the question to the Minister, how many fewer jobs are there in New Zealand than when his government came to office, according to the latest National Employment Indicator?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know the answer to that question because the National Employment Indicator is a partial measure of jobs in the economy. According to the standard measure, there are more jobs than ever.
The Honourable David Cunliffe. Point of order, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
I seek leave to table data from the National Employment Indicator indicating that there are 47,000 fewer jobs.
Order. Is there something wrong with the member's eyes? Now, order. The House will come to order. And just settle a little. The member knows that we don't table stats that are released by various by Statistics New Zealand, because members have that available to them. And seeking leave to table documents to try and score political points is not the purpose of the standing order. I invite the member to read the standing order if he's going to seek leave to table documents. Is this a point of order? The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker, I seek your guidance. I'm not trifling with your ruling in any way, but you've held, sir, that the information is freely available to the members, but we're in the situation where the Minister of Finance has just told the House that he does not know the answer to this important headline indicator.
Order. I'm on my feet. That doesn't mean that the information is not readily available to members. And we're simply not going to go back to tabling stats releases and press statements or press releases or newspaper clippings. Just wastes too much time in this House. And the question time gives members the chance to question the Minister. If the member doesn't like the way the answers referred to the statistics, he can ask questions about why the stats are inferior if he believes they're superior stats, because the question can be expanded in that area because the answers, that field has already been covered. Rather than trying to table documents, question time is about asking questions why ministers may hold certain views of things, not trying to table documents. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Speaker, point of order, Mr. Speaker. I'm reluctant to drag this out, and this will be the last comment I make on this matter, but it's of course possible for ministers of the Crown to either genuinely or conveniently say they don't know the answer to any number which does not support their case. And
order. No, order. We're not going to have any more of that. Does the member have a further supplementary question? If he doesn't, we'll go on to question the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, given that before the last election his leader was claiming that New Zealand had a growth problem, not a debt problem, and given that he has now saddled the country with $37 billion of extra government debt with no growth to show for it, hasn't New Zealand developed now both a growth problem and a debt problem through 3 years of his government muddling through?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course we're dealing with growth and debt in somewhat challenging circumstances. If we'd followed that member's advice for the last 3 years, we'd have probably about twice as much debt as we've got now.
Question number 4, the Honourable To Henare.